Carlton, you are not going to MacArthur Park tonight. In fact, none of you are going to MacArthur Park tonight.
Wait a minute.
Boy, do not test me.
Yes,
I never liked it. Shazam! What about Elvis? Smile!
Yo, what's good, man? Hit that thumbs up button. So I was watching Fresh Prince reruns. I grew up on that show. It's one of my favorites. And I was like, it's crazy because people still to this day online and everything be like, oh man, Lightskin Vivian. I stopped watching after Lightskin Vivian and she ruined the show. And I'm like, huh? And I don't know if you want to call it colorism. Some people, their main issue with the newer Vivian was her being light skinned. I'm like, not that that's an issue, but that's like the fifth thing that was wrong with Lightskin Viv. Now, if you see those clips, the original Aunt Viv, played by Janey Hubert, you know, that was the character that people loved because it was a sassy, strong, minded black woman that reminded a lot of people of black women in your family, maybe your mom's, your sister, your aunt, grandma, whoever. She didn't play that shit. And she had the witty, you know, she was witty. She was a great actress. She would go back and forth. Her dialogue with Uncle Phil. See, the other Aunt Viv was kind of like real laid back and chill. She didn't have that kind of relationship with Phil. It was kind of like she was just there. So Janet Herbert had been on the show for like 3 seasons. She got pregnant the last season. NBC was basically like, yo, you're being a pain in the ass, because she wanted a raise. From her perspective, it's 3 sides of the story: hers, Will's, and the truth. She wanted a raise, and this is right before Friends came out. And people was like, well, Friends made all of that money because more people watched. Yeah, more people watched because by the mid-90s, like 2-3 million more Americans had cable than they did in the early 90s. Just like now, more people got Netflix than they had it 10 years ago. It's just the evolution of how we watch shit. So she wanted a raise. Seinfeld and all these other shows on the network, NBC, was making good money. The whole cast. According to her, Will was the only person that made any real money off the show. I could see that being real. And she was the one cast member who was up NBC's ass. Hey, we need some money. And she did an interview about 2-3 years ago, and she said, yeah, I told Will, well, you got your raise, see if you could get us a raise. And she says, and I quote, Will told her, my money is my money and y'all money is y'all money. And that was the last straw for her. Now, Will says that she was always hating on him. He was a 17-year-old, wet behind the ears, brand new to the acting scene. She felt like he was a amateur, which he was. He wasn't the same Will that you've seen over the last 20 years that does all these blockbuster films. Will was very green in the beginning, but he was just playing himself, so it didn't look like he was green. But she had been acting for like 10 years, so she's looking at him like, this young boy just came off the street, and he's a rapper, and they're paying him all this money. They're paying him more than me. So that's what Will was saying, that she was just jealous. But I really think she just wanted to make more money. I think she asked for like a $5,000 raise. And what she was saying is true. Black actors and actresses are the lowest paid on network television. Still is to this day. Tracy Ellis Ross, I heard, gets like $100,000 a show. The white girl from Big Bang Theory was making like $2 million. You know what I mean? And the ratings wise, I mean, you could say what you want, that show was more popular, but Blackish is a pretty popular show. But back to this shit. So you got that bubbling behind the scenes, and then they cut her after she has her baby, and they had the final episode with her delivering baby Nikki, and they do the whole everybody smile thing. So when you come back to the 94 season, I believe, the 4th season, that's when they bring in the new Aunt Viv. And people wasn't fucking feeling it. The new Aunt Viv, played by Daphne Reed, who was basically she was a model back in the day. She was actually pretty fucking sexy back in the day. And she didn't have the acting background that Aunt Viv had. She had done a few things, but she wasn't quite the actress. She didn't have the sassiness. She didn't have that strict attitude, and she just wasn't the same person. You know what I mean? And like that episode, Carlton Goes to Compton, one of my favorites, when Aunt Viv goes to the hood. She left Bel Air and goes to the fucking hood to snatch up Carlton and Will. Lightskin Aunt Viv couldn't have done that shit. She wouldn't have done it. And if they tried to put that in the script, it would have been unbelievable. You know, she just was laid back. So what they would do, and to try to not make it a big deal, they really decreased Aunt Viv's role. where the original Vivian had a lot of lines, and they had even episodes based around her, like that dance episode, for example. They didn't do anything like that with Aunt Viv. The second light skinned version, she was just there. She'd say her one or two lines, they switched the camera. You know what I mean? I think the one episode they had her really in was her and Uncle Phil had some kind of disagreement. She moved in with her sister. But I always felt like they could have had, there was a lazy option. They could have picked other people. Some people think it was just a light skin thing. But I think there was other actresses at the time that they could have put. Jennifer Lewis would have been good, but they had already had her playing one of Will's aunts. But it would have been, it's other options that they could have had to play Aunt Viv, but they settled for this one, and they just decided to cut her role because NBC had already decided they were going to cut the role back. But I think they really dropped the ball, and they underestimated how powerful and how popular that character was, because there was some people who are obsessed with colorism that stopped watching, believe it or not. Me, I didn't stop. I loved Fresh Prince. I wasn't going to stop because they got rid of one character. That wasn't why I watched the show. Aunt Viv was dope, but I watched it because of Will. And still watched it. But people were just, Aunt Viv, to this day, people are just fucking irate. Like, how could they do that? They should, and to this day, her and Will still have they, back and forth. They little, Will says this, she says that. It's crazy. I'm like, that's what Jada needs to do. Sit at the red table and bring Janet Herbert and fucking Will, bring their asses to the red table so they could squash this beef from fucking 30 years ago. You know what I mean? Because like I say, I do believe Will when he says she was jealous. Because, I mean, he was fresh off the street, and she was a veteran. But she had to understand, you're not a hip-hop superstar. People weren't watching the show for you, sweetie. They was watching it for him. You were a good asset to the show, but you want the show. The show went on and did 3 more years without you. And they did this with Family Matters also. Family Matters ran for a long-ass time, but it really should have been canceled maybe 3 years before they pulled the plug. And the last season, they switched Harriers, but nobody gave a shit because by then, most people had checked out. The show went on too long. Nobody gave a fuck, but they did the same thing. So you can take that how you want to take it. But yeah, I was like, damn, why they always... I mean, Lightskin Viv didn't really bother me because, like I say, they kind of just let her she was just in the background. Because they knew it would have caused too much shit if they had her trying to do the same things Aunt Viv, the real Aunt Viv, was doing. But I don't know, people to me always kind of blew that shit out of proportion. It never really affected the show to me. Some people it did. I kept watching. I always enjoyed it. Jazz with his inside joke, like, you sure look different. So they wasn't trying to insult your intelligence. It's like, okay, we're going to let it be known. We got a new person playing Aunt Viv. What y'all going to do? Y'all going to stop fucking with us? Based off numbers, a lot of people still was watching. So, I hope Janet Herbert is a good piece. She hasn't really done much as an actress since Fresh Prince, unfortunately. And Will had took swipes at her too, and he was like, yeah, that's why she ain't making no more money in Hollywood now. She's a problem. And she could be. They say the same thing about Monique. She's just, that sassy black woman that don't take no shit, I guess, and that was just too much for motherfuckers to handle. But she was just, I can't knock somebody for wanting to get a higher raise and knowing their worth and what they bring to the table. Should she have been making the same money Will was making? No, but I couldn't imagine the kind of money they probably was making as popular as that show was. And she, she just wanted what was hers. And she's done shows like Bernie Mac. She did Tyler Perry's show a couple times. Small roles, but she hasn't had much of a great career since, and she might be blackballed because, like I say, Will is a powerful dude in the Hollywood game. People know you got issues with Will. That's how simple as it goes. But yeah, that was just on my mind, man. That light skin Viv, dark skin Viv shit